Have you ever wondered why some people seem to always make the right decision? Whether it's choosing a career, investing, or starting a business, their choices seem to lead them straight to success, one win after another. Meanwhile, others, despite thinking things through carefully, weighing all the options, somehow always seem out of sync. Opportunities slip by, mistakes pile up, and success remains distant. I've asked myself that same question more times than I can count. And after years of searching, observing, and learning from the most successful people I've ever met, from entrepreneurs to investors to celebrated artists, I've come to a clear realization. It's not that they're always right. It's not that they're immune to failure. It's that before every decision, they think in a fundamentally different way. They don't just look at the surface. They don't stop at questions like, do I like it? Am I excited about it? They go deeper. They examine things from angles most of us never even consider. And it's precisely this kind of thinking, repeated thousands of times in big and small moments, that builds the foundation for their solid careers and the kind of lives others admire. You might assume this comes from secret techniques or elite strategies only the top 1% have access to. But in reality, it's much simpler than that. The catch? Very few people have the consistency to apply them every single day, in even the tiniest of decisions. We, regular people, have had our chances too. But sometimes, in a moment of weakness, under the pull of a tempting offer, an investment craze, or a flash sale, we make decisions based on emotion. Emotion, especially greed and fear, is the silent but powerful driver behind so many of our financial decisions. Think back to the last time you rushed to buy something just because it was on a crazy sale. Or when someone pitched you a can't-lose, money-making opportunity and you were ready to dive in, ignoring all the red flags. Choices like these, made again and again, create a life that, when we look back on it, often brings more regret than pride. The wealthy are different. They have emotions too, but they don't let emotions steer the wheel. They let principles, clear thinking, and their internal compass guide them. They understand that a rushed decision could cost more than just money. It could waste time, the most valuable asset we'll never get back. They know that one bad decision today might block them from bigger opportunities tomorrow. That's why they discipline their minds. No rushing, no following the crowd, no caving to pressure. You might be wondering, so what exactly do these successful people think about before making a decision? What helps them sidestep the emotional traps that so many of us fall into? The answer doesn't lie in some magical formula. It lies in 7 core thinking principles, 7 ways of viewing, assessing, and questioning, that they apply almost instinctively whenever faced with a choice. These principles are not complex. You don't need millions in the bank to use them. You don't need fancy degrees or a giant network. You only need one thing: perseverance. The perseverance to pause before every decision, big or small, and think with principles, not emotions. The perseverance to accept that sometimes saying no to a short-term opportunity is the only way to unlock a greater one later on. The perseverance to stand by your values, rather than being swept away by the crowd. Ask yourself this: are the decisions I'm making each day truly aligned with my long-term goals? Am I acting out of real value, or just short-term emotion? If the answer leaves you feeling even slightly uneasy, congratulations. That's the first sign of awakening. Because shifting how you think, how you decide, that is always the beginning of every great change in life. Today, we'll begin a journey to uncover the 7 things the wealthy always consider before making important decisions. Each one is a doorway, offering you a new perspective, a new source of inner strength. You see, changing the way we think isn't something that happens overnight. It's like adjusting the rudder of a massive ship in the middle of the ocean. Just a small shift. But over time, it can lead you to an entirely different continent. And like every great journey, it starts with a single step. A simple step, but one powerful enough to change the trajectory of your entire life. That first step is changing how we view the opportunities in front of us. Instead of asking, "What will I gain?" successful people learn to ask a deeper question. If I'm wrong, what will it cost me? This isn't pessimism. It's awareness. It's the ability to see both the light and the shadow in every option, instead of being swept up by the glitter on the surface. And now, I invite you to truly pause with me. Take a deep breath. Set aside the shiny distractions out there and dive into the real core of successful thinking. The very first and most foundational principle. A principle repeated for centuries by some of the greatest minds and wisest investors in history. Always consider the risk before thinking about the reward. Why does this simple rule create such a massive difference? And how can you start applying it today, even in the smallest decisions? Let's find out right now. When it comes to financial decisions, most of us tend to focus on the reward. We dream of the money we'll make. We picture the new house, the sleek car, the dream vacation. But rarely, very rarely, do we ask, what's the worst that could happen? What will I lose if this doesn't go as planned? That right there is the first, and perhaps biggest, difference between how the wealthy think and how most people do. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, once said, "Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1." Sounds simple, right? But living by that rule, making decisions through it, takes an incredible level of discipline and clarity. Because human nature is wired to chase rewards more than to be cautious of risk. There's a small story about Buffett that I love. When the US stock market was heating up, with everyone buying stocks hoping to make a quick profit, Buffett sat quietly. He read financial reports, analyzed companies, and studied risks in detail, while others were just staring at price charts. People laughed at him, said he was too cautious, too slow. But when the bubble burst and the market crashed, those quick movers were also the biggest losers. Buffett, by putting risk first, didn't just protect his assets. He had cash ready to scoop up incredible investments at bargain prices. He didn't need to win every battle. He just needed to avoid losing the important ones. If you pay close attention, you'll notice, when the wealthy face a new opportunity, they don't ask, "How much money can I make?" They ask, "What's the worst case scenario? Can I live with the loss if this goes south?" If the answer is yes, they move forward. If the answer is no, "It could destroy me," they walk away, no matter how tempting the profit may be. That's not fear. That's calculated courage. The courage to say no to the shiniest bait, if it hides a dangerous hook. Picture this. You're standing in front of two bridges. One is solid, fully inspected, but will take an hour to walk across. The other is an old rope bridge, fraying, swaying in the wind, but gets you there in 5 minutes. Which one do you choose? If all you see is the 5-minute shortcut, you'll choose the risky bridge. But if you think, what if the rope snaps? I'll fall and it's over. You won't risk it. That's how wealthy people think when facing a choice. They don't risk survival for short-term gain. And you can apply this thinking in everyday life. Before every purchase, investment, business move, even in relationships, ask yourself, if this doesn't work out, what's the cost? Can I afford that risk? If the answer is no, have the courage to walk away. That's the first shift, the first principle, and the beginning of thinking like the wealthy. Just by changing one question, you can change the way you make decisions. I know, sometimes it's hard to resist temptation. Sometimes, an opportunity comes along that just sounds too good to pass up. Your heart races, your hands tremble slightly, and that little voice screams in your head, "Don't miss out." But it's precisely in those moments that the real test begins. The wealthy have trained themselves to pause, take a deep breath, and ask, "Sure, the profit looks good, but what's the price I'll pay if this fails?" If the answer makes them uneasy, they'd rather walk away than live with regret. You see, lasting success doesn't come from impulsive decisions. It comes from the courage to say no, the patience to wait, the wisdom to choose the more stable path, even if it seems slower. That's how truly wealthy people build their fortunes, not with one lucky bet, but with hundreds, even thousands, of careful, deliberate decisions made day after day. And most importantly, they don't think about risk just to avoid failure. They think about risk to understand the true value of any opportunity. Which brings us to the next powerful principle in wealthy thinking. Before making a decision, they don't just ask, "How much can I make?" They go deeper and ask, "What is the real value here?" Because if you only focus on potential profit, you might get dazzled. But if you focus on core value, you'll see the true nature of the opportunity. Let's dive into this second principle right now. Value-based thinking. How the wealthy see through the surface to seize opportunities that truly last. There's a little story I love, from the early days when Amazon was still just a small online bookstore. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's founder, was constantly questioned at the time. Why sell books? Why not pick something easier to move? Why risk everything on a website when the internet was still so new and uncertain? If Bezos had focused only on short-term profit, he probably would have chosen an easier path. But he didn't, because in his mind, it wasn't just about selling books. He wasn't asking, how much money can I make? He was asking, what real value am I creating for customers? Bezos saw a much bigger picture, a platform where customers could find anything they needed quickly, easily, and at the best price. Books were just the starting point. The real value was in convenience, trust, and a customer experience like nothing before. The wealthy understand this deeply. Money, fame, and success, those are outcomes. Value is the cause. A money-making opportunity might come and go in a flash. But real value, once created and sustained, draws in wealth, people, opportunities, and lasting success. When they evaluate an investment, a business, even a relationship, the wealthy don't just ask, what do I get? They ask, what's the core value here? Is this solving a real problem? Is this bringing something positive and lasting into the world? Because they know, if there's no real value, then whatever you're building is just a castle in the sand. Picture two people selling the same product. One focuses on flashy features, hyped-up promises, and catchy slogans. The other patiently explains how the product solves real problems, how it improves someone's life. Who do you think will build a sustainable brand? Who will earn loyal customers, even in tough competition? The answer is obvious. Real value isn't in surface appeal. It's in the tangible improvements you bring to others. And the same goes for your life. When choosing a career path, a relationship, even a new habit, ask yourself, is this truly creating something positive for me and others? If the answer is uncertain, be cautious, because investing in things without real value, sooner or later, always leads to disappointment. But if you focus on creating value, even if the profit isn't immediate, you're planting the best seeds for your future. The truth is, most opportunities out there look tempting if you only consider the potential earnings. But the wealthy aren't fooled by surface numbers. They dig deeper. They question. They analyze. And they're not afraid to ask the uncomfortable questions. Is this product really as good as advertised? Does this service truly bring value to customers? Is this project solving a real issue in the world? If the answer is no, they walk away, no matter how big the promised profit is. Because they know, money can come and go fast. But real value is sustainable, and it multiplies over time. That's why the wealthy are patient. They understand that building value takes time. No lasting success is created overnight. And that brings us to the third principle in wealthy thinking. A principle that may seem simple, but it separates those with long-term success from those who rise quickly only to fall just as fast. The wealthy value time more than money, because they know money can be lost and earned again. But time, once it's gone, is gone forever. Up next, we'll dive into why time is the most important asset of all, and how you can begin managing it like the wealthy do. Let's continue this journey together. You know, one of the most profound differences between how wealthy people and the average person make decisions lies in how they value time. Most of us, when facing a decision, automatically ask, how much will this cost me? We count every dollar, weigh every expense. But very rarely do we pause and ask, how much time will this cost me? Meanwhile, the wealthy, they ask the opposite. To them, time is even more precious than money, because money, even when lost, can be earned back. But time, once it slips away, no power in the world can buy it back. There's a great story about Elon Musk. In the early days of SpaceX, when almost everyone doubted the chances of a private company succeeding in the space industry, Musk invested nearly all his wealth. But more than money, he invested his time. His workdays often stretched to 16 to 18 hours. And he was obsessed with one question: how can I shorten the time it takes to reach the goal? He didn't just ask, how much does it cost to build a rocket? He asked, how can we reduce rocket development time from 5 years down to 2? That's one of the key reasons SpaceX, despite countless early failures, achieved milestones that once only wealthy governments dared to dream of. The wealthy understand that time is life. Every decision that consumes time without returning equal value is a slice of life taken, never to be regained. So they calculate with great care. If I invest in this project, How many years of my life will be tied to it? If I take this job, will it accelerate my growth? If I go down this path, am I maximizing the value of my time? Think back for a moment. How many times in your life have you spent time on things that meant nothing? Pointless meetings, repetitive tasks, dead-end relationships. Every one of those moments didn't just cost you hours or days. They cost you the opportunity to invest that same time into something far more valuable. Because the wealthy always account for time, they are extremely disciplined in how they spend it. They're not afraid to walk away from appealing opportunities if they sense it will eat up too much time without delivering true value. They're also willing to spend money to buy back time. Hiring help, automating tasks, leveraging technology, anything to free up their schedule to focus on what truly matters. And here's the best part, you can start thinking this way too. Right now, before each decision, instead of only asking how much will this cost, add one more question. How much time will this take? Is the value I'm getting worth the time I'm giving up? You'll see, just by changing the way you frame the question, your decision-making will shift too. And slowly, your life will start moving in a new direction, one that's more intentional, more efficient, and more abundant. Because in the end, the most successful person isn't the one who has the most money. It's the one who uses their time the smartest. They understand that every passing day is a non-refundable expense. The way we spend today is how we shape our destiny for tomorrow. That's why the wealthy don't just work hard. They work smart. They understand that if they rely solely on their own labor, their time will always be limited. Everyone, whether a billionaire or an average person, has the same 24 hours in a day. So to truly break through, to achieve goals beyond personal limits, they need a different strategy. And that's why the next principle in wealthy thinking is this. Always think in terms of leverage. Leverage allows them to multiply their time, effort, and resources. It's the secret to moving faster, going farther, all within the same finite 24 hours. So now, let's explore together. What exactly is leverage? And how can you begin using it in your life and career? Just like the world's most successful people, let's keep going on this journey. If time is the most valuable asset, then leverage is the tool that allows successful people to multiply their power many times over. Imagine this. No matter how talented someone is, they still only have 2 hands and 24 hours a day. If they try to do everything alone, they will eventually hit a natural ceiling. But if they learn to seek out and apply leverage, they can expand their capacity far beyond personal limits. Leverage becomes the key to unlocking greater impact, higher income, and a richer life. That's why successful people never just ask, "What can I do?" They always ask, "What resources around me can I tap into to do this faster, better, more efficiently?" Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, once said that the wealthy don't work for money, they make money work for them. And it doesn't stop at money. They leverage other people's time, skills, experience, and intelligence to amplify the results they want. In business, a smart owner doesn't try to handle everything, sales, operations, accounting, by themselves. They build a team. They create systems, so the business can grow even without their constant presence. In investing, savvy investors don't just rely on their own funds. They leverage capital from banks, partners, or funds to scale up while maintaining personal financial flexibility. In creativity, influential voices don't depend solely on personal effort. They harness technology, media, and community support to spread their message to millions, not just hundreds. In every field, leverage is at the core of extraordinary success. But like a sharp blade, leverage can be incredibly powerful or dangerously destructive if used carelessly. Because when you borrow time, effort, or money from outside sources, you're also accepting exposure to risks beyond your control. A key team member might leave. A loan might be called in. Technology might shift overnight. Any of these could shake the very foundation of the leverage system you've worked so hard to build in an instant. That's why truly successful people don't just know how to find leverage. They're also mentally prepared for when that leverage fails. They never naively believe things will run perfectly forever. They don't blindly place all their trust in a system, a person, or a single plan. They always have backup strategies, contingency scenarios, and most importantly, a mindset ready to face failure if it comes. Because they understand, failure isn't the end. Failure is simply a necessary part of the journey toward success. Up next, we're stepping into one of the most vital principles in the mindset of the wealthy. They always prepare for failure, not because they lack confidence, not because they're afraid, but because they understand. Only those who accept the possibility of failure have the courage to truly walk the path to success. Let's keep exploring this journey together. If you ask anyone who's genuinely walked the road to lasting success how many times they've failed, the answer will almost always surprise you. No one reaches the top without falling. No one builds something great without facing painful failures along the way. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't, it's not about who falls less. It's about who prepares better for the fall. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, was rejected from jobs over 30 times and faced bitter failures in his early ventures. But each time he fell, he didn't stay down, because he had already prepared himself for failure as part of the journey. So instead of feeling hopeless, he learned. Instead of blaming circumstances, he adjusted course. The wealthy understand this clearly. No matter how perfect your plan, you can't predict every twist and turn in reality. Markets change, partners change, the world changes. And if you haven't mentally and strategically prepared for failure, you'll be swept away the moment a wave hits. That's why in every plan, they carve out space for the worst-case scenarios. They ask themselves, if things don't go as planned, how can I pivot? If I lose this entire investment, do I still have the resources to recover? If this project fails, what can I learn so I don't repeat the same mistakes? By facing risk up front, they're no longer haunted by fear of failure. In fact, it's that very preparation that makes them more confident, more grounded, and more resilient in every step they take. There's a quiet power in being able to say, yes, failure might happen, and I'm ready for it. Suddenly, you're no longer paralyzed by fear. You move with clarity and decisiveness, because you know, even if the worst happens, you'll be okay. The most successful people aren't those who've never fallen. They're simply the ones who've learned how to fall without breaking. And the fascinating thing is, the more carefully you prepare for failure, the less likely you are to suffer major setbacks. Because awareness, flexibility, and backup plans help you avoid the most dangerous traps. You become like a seasoned race car driver, knowing when to slow down for a sharp turn, when to avoid an obstacle, when to stay steady through chaos. You're not surprised by challenges. You're not shaken by change. You're ready to respond, adapt, and keep moving forward. In a world that's constantly shifting, the ability to prepare for failure isn't just an advantage, it's a survival skill. But there's one more factor, even more important. It's the ability to see beyond the failure right in front of you. To not be swept away by short-term emotions, whether it's the sting of a setback or the thrill of a quick win. The wealthy understand that the real game isn't won in a single victory or defeat. The real game is about what they're building over 5, 10, 20 years. Which brings us to the next principle in their mindset. They think long-term and don't get carried away by short-term emotions. Up next, we'll dive deep into one of the most powerful secrets behind the unwavering focus of the wealthy. How they train their minds to think long-term. So even if they fail today, they keep moving closer to their ultimate success. Let's continue this journey of discovery together. In today's world, everything moves at lightning speed. News updates by the minute. Investment opportunities appear and disappear within days. Overnight success stories are glorified everywhere, making it easy to believe that one impulsive decision, one bold move, could change your life forever. But reality tells a different story. Truly successful people, those who build lasting wealth, rarely let themselves be swept away by short-term emotional waves. They don't chase every new trend. They don't panic sell their assets over a rumor. They don't sacrifice long-term values just to satisfy temporary desires, because they think long-term. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, once said in an interview, "We're not building Amazon for the next quarter. We're building it for 5, 10 years from now." That mindset helped Amazon weather countless crises, endure long periods of losses, and ultimately become one of the greatest companies in the world. If Bezos had only focused on next quarter's revenue, Amazon likely wouldn't have survived those tough early years. But he stayed committed to the long-term vision, and that commitment made the impossible possible. The wealthy understand, short-term emotions, whether fear or excitement, often lead to poor decisions. Stock market plunges in a single day. Amateur investors panic and sell. Professionals, they buy. A hot investment gets hyped everywhere. The crowd rushes in. The wise observe from the sidelines. Why? Because successful people don't react based on emotion. They act based on principle, strategy, and a long-term plan that was set in place long before the hype began. Short-term emotions are powerful. They make you feel like you have to act now or risk missing the chance of a lifetime. But most truly valuable opportunities, the ones that matter in the long run, don't vanish in an instant. Successful people know this. They are patient. They accept that meaningful results take time. They won't trade 10 years of financial freedom for 1 month of thrill. And because they stay focused on the long game, they don't get shaken by short-term failure. One loss won't make them give up. One small win won't make them complacent. Because in their mind, the journey is far from over. Now think about yourself for a moment. How many times have you quit something just because you didn't see results in a few weeks or months? How many times have you jumped into a trend out of fear of missing out, only to realize later it wasn't right for you? It's easy to get swept away by short-term emotions, unless you have a clear long-term vision to anchor you. That's why, to think like the wealthy, you need to build a habit of pausing and asking, how will this decision affect me 5, 10 years from now? If the answer revolves only around a temporary feeling, you may want to reconsider. Long-term thinking not only helps you avoid dangerous traps, it allows you to build strong, lasting foundations. Knowledge, skills, relationships, assets, all of these take time to develop, like planting a great tree. You can't plant it today and expect fruit tomorrow. The wealthy understood this early on, and they chose to nurture the tree, day by day, even when no one noticed, even when there were no visible rewards yet. They know sustainable success is not for the impatient. However, thinking long-term requires another subtle but essential skill: discernment, because not every opportunity is worth pursuing for 5 or 10 years. Not every path aligns with your core values. So in addition to thinking long-term, the wealthy always ask themselves one powerful question before making any major decision. Does this truly align with who I am? Because if it doesn't match who you are, your values, your true goals, even if it leads to success, you still won't feel fulfilled. Up next, we'll explore the final principle in the mindset of the wealthy, how they listen to themselves before every decision, and only walk the path that's truly meant for them. Let's keep going. On the journey toward success, here's a truth few recognize. Not every opportunity is your opportunity. Not every version of success will make you happy. In a world filled with offers, temptations, and shiny promises, it's easy to get swept up by the glow of wealth, fame, and power. But the truly wealthy, those who are both successful and fulfilled, follow a different principle. Before every important decision, they ask, does this truly align with who I am? Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful women in the world, once said, there are many amazing opportunities that have come my way, but if it doesn't align with my values and my mission, I say no, no matter how tempting it is. That statement may sound simple, but it holds immense inner strength. Because turning down a golden opportunity, especially one everyone else is chasing, takes deep self-awareness and extraordinary courage. The wealthy don't choose paths just because they're easy. They don't choose offers just because they promise money. They choose what resonates with who they are, with what they believe in, with the dreams they want to live long-term. Because they know, if you're on the wrong path, no matter how hard you try, no matter how far you climb, there will always be an emptiness inside. To do this, they take time to listen to themselves. They ask, will this decision make me proud of who I am? Does this path reflect the values I want to live by? Will this success truly bring me peace and meaning, not just money? If the answer is no, they walk away. Because they know, moving fast is not what matters most. Moving in the right direction is. And you can do the same. On your journey toward success, you'll face many crossroads. There will be shortcuts, easier paths, tempting rewards. But remember, every choice you make today shapes who you become tomorrow. If you choose what aligns with your heart, you'll build a life that's not only successful, but deeply fulfilling. If you chase only what others approve of, you might win on the outside, but lose yourself on the inside. That's why, before every big decision, pause, take a deep breath, and ask, Does this truly fit the person I want to become? No one else needs to answer that for you. No one else needs to judge. You just need to be honest with yourself. And if you stay true to what fits you, you'll find everything slowly falls into place. The right opportunities arrive. The right people show up. Your life gains direction, depth, and real meaning. And with that, we've arrived at the end of our journey through the 7 core thinking principles that the wealthy and sustainably successful use before every important decision. 7 principles, seemingly simple, but powerful enough to transform your entire life. Now, the final question isn't, do you know these 7 principles? It's, are you ready to live them every day, in every decision? Let's step into the final part, where we reflect on the journey and ignite real change from within. We've traveled far together, from learning how the wealthy always assess risk before reward, to how they seek true value. Value time more than money. Use leverage wisely. Prepare for failure. Think long-term. And above all, choose what truly fits who they are. 7 principles. 7 ways of thinking that, when practiced consistently, can reshape the entire course of your life. But you know this. Just listening isn't enough. Just understanding isn't enough. Success doesn't come to those who just sit, nod, and move on. Success comes to those who act, even if it's just one small step each day. So right now, I invite you. Pick the one principle that resonated with you the most, the one that struck a chord in your heart, and make a promise to yourself. Starting today, I will live by this principle. Whether it's evaluating risk before every decision, being patient with long-term goals, or listening to your inner voice before choosing your path, just start with one. Then day by day, week by week, your thinking will shift. Your actions will follow. And eventually, your life will transform in ways you can't yet imagine. If this journey gave you a new perspective, a fresh spark, or even just a quiet moment of reflection, I invite you to continue walking with me. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, so we can keep growing together. Ahead of us are deeper conversations on success thinking, on decision-making mastery, on building a life that's not just successful, but truly meaningful and sustainable. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your willingness to grow. Remember, true wealth doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your mind, in the way you think, each and every day. Wishing you strength and clarity on your journey to becoming the best version of you. See you in the next video.